may not seem like there are many intricacies with the Trap Shaddolls deck, but I assure you there are a few plays that you definitely want to know when playing this deck. So hopefully this comp tutorial / test hand video will help you out with that. So if you guys enjoyed this type of content, do let me know by leaving a like, commenting, subscribing. I would really appreciate it. Because only a very small percentage of my viewers are actually subscribed. So if you enjoy this type of content, please consider subscribing because it really helps keep me motivated to keep posting more videos like this, and it really helps the channel grow. But yeah, with that being said, let's finish shuffling up. As per my standard test hand videos, I will do 2 going first test hands and 1 going second test hand. So starting off with our going first test hands, we have Sinister Shadow Games Transfer Tribute. This is a copy of Solemn Strike, I should mention. Sorry about that. But yeah, now we have 5 traps. Essentially, we're obviously going to set 5. It's okay if you don't have a card for Dynamiscus, because Shadow Games can essentially get you that card, and it's not once per turn. That's the important thing about Shadow Games. I would personally actually shot, like, even though it kind of telegraphs you have a card like Paleozoic Dynamiscus in your back row, I would still consider shotgunning Shadow Games, just so you don't miss out on like a good opportunity to stop like your opponent activating something that like a continuous spell or like a field spell or something that activates on summon. On activation, I should say. So we're gonna send a copy of Hedgehog. Hedgehog is gonna add Squamata. You want to add Squamata in this case, just because it gives you the most flexibility. When you discard it, you can send like a Dragon or Ariel or Wendy or whatever you want. We're gonna be activating Dynamiscus. I assume we're gonna be like using all of our traps this turn, so you probably want to start with Dynamiscus in this case, if possible, just because it's already telegraphed to your opponent that you have a card that like needs a discard. Dynamiscus is that card. You can discard this, send Squamata, get rid of something, or you can like strike like one of their first summons to try to stop them from comboing off in the first place. But assuming you striked and they're able to like play through it somehow, this is actually a cute interaction where you can Dynamiscus, banish some random card, send a copy of banish their card, Squamata effect, send a copy of Wendy to the graveyard, Wendy effect, summoning Falco, and then Torrential on summon. Since you've triggered, since a monster was summoned, you can trigger your own Torrential Tribute, and then Falco will come back. And the crazy part is, we still have a Sinister Shadow Games, so this can get us access to a card like Beast to draw one if we really want, but honestly I'd probably save it because I assume you're probably just going to be surviving this turn anyways. And recall, as soon as you activate this, you get a Dynamiscus back. So assuming we get to our next turn with this as our board, we'll draw for turn, Super Poly, activate Shadow Games, flip up Falco. In this case, since Falco is going to bring back a monster, I believe it has to be in face down defense position. Yeah, you summon a monster back in face down defense position. You probably want to summon a Wendy just to get more resources later on. But yeah, Falco brings back Wendy. Dynamiscus triggers off Shadow Games. From here, we can also send a copy of. I apologize. You don't want to set this actually. You want to set Hedgehog. My bad. Because this can send any Shaddolls card. Essentially, this gets our play started with Resh Shaddolls flipping up our Hedgehog. We can go Resh, banish these two, flip up Hedgehog, Hedgehog search. For any of our fusion spells, you don't necessarily have to push into your opponent's board. You can actually just set the Shaddolls fusion and just call it because you get the Shaddolls effects next turn when you fuse with them, which is very, very important to keep up your resource game. So that's going to do it for the first test hand. I know it wasn't super exciting. We only got 5 traps. But hopefully this next one's a little more, hopefully that was still a little insightful for you guys. Just to see how to sequence your traps and essentially what you're trying to do for follow-up afterwards. So we're going to shuffle up a few more times and we'll be going first again. Okay. So our opening hand is El Shaddolls, Super Poly, Luna, Shaddolls Fusion, and Punishment. So this is a very interesting hand. I don't love it, but you can see essentially what a single Luna can do, I suppose. Luna adds a copy of Snow to our hand because it can add any spellcaster monster with 1850 attack or defense. on our opponent's turn, we are just going to set 3. You don't need to set the Shaddolls Fusion, you just hold it in hand. On our opponent's turn, we have Fairy Tale Luna, in which we're able to bounce one of their monsters back to the hand. You want to target stuff that they play one of. So for example, against like Dragon Link, Striker Dragon, for example, they play one of. I'm not saying that's like the right hit, but I mean, you get the idea. Cards that for sure they play one of. Just returning it to the hand is huge, because you get a play for next turn while disrupting them. And then you have access to a card like Punishment. If you're in a matchup where Super Polymerization is going to be really good, you want to hold your Punishment until after you Super Poly, in which you discard Fairy Tale Snow, assuming you're going to be summoning like Mud Dragon of the Swamp or something. On your opponent's turn, you can activate like Punishment to further disrupt them, sending a copy of App Clone effect. Depending on if you need to disrupt them further, you can add a copy of Dragon or Aerial or something. But assuming we don't need to disrupt them further, because we've already disrupted them a lot, you want to be setting up essentially for your next turn play. You won't be able to use the extra deck, so essentially you can take that turn to use your flip monsters. So you want to add a copy of Wendy, discard Wendy effect. You can just go on and set a copy of Falco. This way, it makes it harder to kill you because you have something to block. But also next turn, if all your guys survive, you essentially just have a bunch of fusion fodder for the turn right after that. Because you can flip up Falco. Falco can set Wendy back. And then we can normal summon our Luna again. Luna, search Luna. And this is kind of like the theory behind Luna. It's just always going to be a recurring interruption that replaces itself. So even if your opponent negates it, it still acts as an interruption on the board, which is really, really good. And of course now we can't do anything but attack. We'll set our Sinister Shadow Games, and from here we have a fusion play on our opponent's turn. Another bounce, a Sinister Shadow Games to disrupt our opponent, and if we are able to resolve Luna, we can probably also resolve Snow as well. Snow, at this point we have so many cards we can banish. We can banish 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 once we use it. We essentially, Snow becomes live after your second turn, which is really huge. It can be a very powerful disruption. So that's going to do it for the second test hand. Now let's see if we're actually able to go second into a hypothetical board. I always say these before these going second test hands, but this is purely hypothetical. We won't know what our opponent has. I'm just going to kind of be explaining what you should be focusing on when you're going second with this deck, because unfortunately you're not always going to win the die roll unless you have some very, very, very lucky dice. But yeah, finishing up cutting the deck, we will be going second. We have double Super Poly, L, Beast, and Wendy, and the draw for turn and L. So this is a very interesting hand. Don't love it. Of course, you don't really know if your Super Poly is gonna be live against your opponent, because like you can play against like Sword Soul, you can play against like Virtual World. Like there's a lot of different things you need to consider. But let's just assume, for this video's sake, that your opponent didn't put up something you could Super Poly with. So you can go L, force out one of their interruptions, because if they know how to play against Shaddolls, they'll just stop a fusion spell. Activate your other L because you're so good at the game. Fuse away these two. Summon App Clone in the extra monster zone specifically. Chainlink 1, depending on what kind of interruptions they have, if, I don't know, they have like Appaloosa or something, you probably want to make your Beast Chainlink 3 so they negate it and App Clone can resolve. But it really does depend on what you're trying to play around. If you're trying to play around like card like Ash Blossom, then of course you just want to make App Clone Chainlink 3. Either way, we resolve our Chainlinks. I do believe we want to resolve Beast before Wendy, just to see what we draw, so we know what we can set off Wendy. There's an argument to be made for doing either one first, but either way, we'll keep it simple. Beast draw into Solemn Strike. Resolve Wendy. Wendy is going to set a copy of, and at this point, there are many different routes you can go down. For example, if you need to negate multiple cards, you can go down the route where you set a copy of Aerial, link this for Gravity Controller, grab Resh, ditch Resh, Resh banish itself an app clone, flip up Aerial, Aerial summon back app clone negates something else, and then after that, you're kind of able to play from there, but I feel like that's not great because it doesn't give you a way to recur your fusion spells, and you want a way to do that, or a way to fusion summon again. So we're actually just going to set a copy of... let's just set a copy of... Yeah, we'll just set a copy of Falco, just because we have two very powerful flip monsters in our grave. We can then link this off into a copy of a gravity controller, effect app clone. We can add a copy of... I mean, if we're trying to break our opponent's board, then I guess we can add like Shaddoll Fusion, assuming they still have an extra deck monster. We'll grab back our Shaddoll Fusion. And ditch Super Poly, activate the Shaddolls Fusion. And then from here, we're in a pretty good spot because Shaddolls Fusion can send Fairy Tale Snow. And we can send a copy of Hedgehog for our Construct. Construct 1, Hedgehog 2. Hedgehog searches a copy of Skomata. We do want a way to get the Construct back into the grave again somehow. So we're going to have to... I think we actually may just have to normal summon this Skomata. It's not ideal, but we can go battle phase attack with these guys. We do want to link, because you can't use Gravity Controller as a link material, which is important. We want to link these two into, you can either, you make a Proxy F Magician, which is funny because it actually comes up here. We make Proxy F Magician / Verte Anaconda. Effective Construct, we want to add back the El Shaddolls Fusion. And then from here, you can activate your Verte Anaconda or Construct. Depending on, if it's Proxy F Magician, then you fuse these two for a copy of Winda. Falco bring itself back. And then on your opponent's turn, you have El Shaddolls Fusion plus a Solemn Strike to control the board. But assuming this is Verte Anaconda, instead you can actually... because I believe you can still activate, you can still Verte Anaconda, send one of these fusion spells, even though you've already used them once. But if your opponent still has monsters on board, Verte Anaconda has a neat other effect to make your opponent's monsters dark. So you can try one of their monsters, call dark, send the Super Poly, fusing away their monster plus your Falco for a copy of Winda. And then Falco summons itself back. And then on your opponent's turn, this gives you an additional dark to summon another Winda. So essentially, we're able to kind of break open their board while resetting up fusion plays on our opponent's turn, which is important. Plus, we have a Fairy Tale Snow. That's the huge thing. Fairy Tale Snow not only acts as a powerful interruption, but it also allows us to fuse on our opponent's turn with a light monster, putting it back in grave and potentially using it for a second time. So that's gonna do it for the test stand video. Let me know what you guys thought about it in the comments below. Stay tuned for more test stand videos, combo tutorials, deck profiles coming soon. So if you like this type of content, be sure to let me know by leaving a like, commenting, subscribing. But with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching once again, and I will see you guys soon. Take care.